Hey everyone, welcome to Mountain Beast Mysteries. Well, we had another Congress hearing on the UFO subject, and it was very similar to the first one, where not a lot of new information was revealed. It was a whole lot of, I can't talk about this or that, and I don't know. And that was to be expected, because they're not going to tell us what they know. And it's interesting how they make it seem like they are working for the people, like the taxpayers deserve to know what is going on, where their money's going. Like, they really are trying to get people to rally behind them, making it seem like they're actually that they have the people's best interests in mind. And I don't think that they do, because if you watch the hearing throughout the whole thing, it's a national security threat. It's a threat to our national security, a threat to our airspace, blah, 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 blah. I mean, of course, an unknown force from another world would be something to be worried about, but these things, these UAPs, UFOs, these extraterrestrial beings, ultra-dimensional beings, they've been around forever. It's not like a new thing. They've been around for thousands and thousands of years. And if they wanted us gone, we'd be gone. And it's interesting, at the very tail end of that hearing, like, they talk about these things lingering around nuclear weapons, like, facilities and whatnot. And they're trying to say, like, if a ET force, or even a force from, like, another country was gonna, scout something out, that's what it would be. They'd be doing recon on those areas, because in those facilities they're developing all kinds of new technologies. So that's why they're being seen and reported at these military locations and these testing facilities and whatnot, when in reality these things are monitoring those areas so that we don't do anything stupid. What you'll find, if you really dig into it, is that these extraterrestrial beings, or ultra-dimensional beings, whatever you want to call them, there's a spectrum of these things. They're protecting us from ourselves, basically. And the only thing that is a national security threat is us. Like, they try and make it seem like there's a part in the hearing where a guy was like, this is a threat to our pilots. Like, they were threatened by these things being around. Like, these UFO craft never actually did anything to any pilots. They never attacked anyone. But I guarantee you that extraterrestrial craft have been targeted by humans and shot down. They talk about these crash recovery programs and whatnot, and who is to say, like, what was even going on at these crash recoveries? Maybe some of these crash recoveries were actual, like, reverse engineered craft, and it was all put on by the military. Maybe none of them were actually even ET, events. Maybe some of them were. The thing is, we just don't know. But there's a spectrum that they don't ever mention of alien beings. It's not just, the aliens are here and they're either good or bad. There's us at one end of the spectrum, like the lower end, and then a whole array of beings. And at the opposite end, these are like higher dimensional beings that don't even need physical craft to travel. They travel by consciousness. Everything is consciousness. And these alien beings know that. Like, a lot of these higher dimensional beings, ultra dimensional beings that people see, usually show up as light entities, light orbs, and not metallic nuts and bolts craft. And there's an array of craft and beings in between. So some of, like, the lower end extraterrestrials are like the Greys that you hear about, who, do these abductions, and they're kind of at the lower end of the spectrum, but they're still more advanced than us. These higher dimensional beings, like, them and their craft can interface with consciousness somehow, and that's how they travel. It's not like they travel through space to get from point A to point B, which is, like, not very efficient, because we know how vast space is. We know the distance between stars. It's mind-blowing, the distance between stars. It's all consciousness. Everything is consciousness. Quantum physics is consciousness. Energy is consciousness. Reality is just consciousness. You're perceiving this reality. It's a manifestation of the collective consciousness, basically. And these alien beings know that. They're not traveling from point A to point B with rockets, which is what we're trying to do, which is very silly. We're trying to go to Mars with rockets. We don't stand a chance against anything anyways. Like, to say that we need to beef up our Air Force, which is what they were saying in this hearing, is crazy, because at the end of the day, there's nothing that we can do to defend ourselves against any of these beings that are above us in like evolution, and in consciousness. They're so much more intelligent than we are, and they're so much further along than we are. I guarantee you there's nothing we can do. So to use this scenario as a reason to like invest more into the military and to beef up our military and all our weapons is crazy. That's all it is. And it's about control. It's not what they want us to believe. It's like these beings, whatever they are, they don't want us to be a violent species in space. They don't want us to bring our warlike nature into space, because we're like, the human race is on the brink of being like a space-faring race, basically. And they don't want us to bring all that into space. We're doing the exact opposite of what we should be doing. Like, they want to use this to beef up the military, the Air Force, to protect ourselves against these things, which we just can't do anyways. These things, whatever they are, can do whatever they want. They can do whatever they want. They can manipulate physical reality, because they know physical reality isn't actually physical reality. It's consciousness. And they're much more, like, evolved in their consciousness than we are. That's why these things you'll hear, like, they don't operate under the laws of physical reality. Like, their craft do things that seem like magic. They seem impossible. They can move through solid objects. Like, because they're not operating in this reality. They're not in that box that we are in. And it's crazy, like, these actual ET beings that are here, you'll notice that they're not landing on the front lawn of the White House. They're not doing that. They're presenting themselves to regular, everyday people who, usually you'll notice that these people that they're presenting themselves to have a pretty good understanding of consciousness, and maybe a higher level of consciousness, and they usually have like a spiritual center of some kind, and morals and values, and they're not, deceitful. These beings are choosing to present themselves to these people more and more. Like, every day there's more and more sightings and people experiencing these things on a regular basis. And so the government, they have to jump in and try and get control of this narrative that there's a national security threat, to keep, everything under control. And so they still have control of like the energy industry and whatnot. And like, just think about it though, there's nothing that can be done. If these things wanted to destroy us, they could just wipe us off the face of the earth. But they don't. So it's silly to think that we would stand any chance and we would need to like advance our military, because there's nothing we can do. Even if we reverse engineer craft, there's still nothing we can do, because it's still not going to be anywhere near the level of what these beings actually have or what they are. Like, I think they're, like, people are seeing, obviously, things that look like light orbs. They look like energy. These are ultra-dimensional beings of some kind. But the stuff that they talk about in Congress, like crash retrieval stuff, that's like low-end stuff. That's like flying saucer type shit, which we don't really hear about anymore. Like, when was the last sighting of like a flying saucer landing and beings being seen with it? Was it like the 90s with the Ariel school encounter in Zimbabwe? All the school children encountered it? I don't know. In John Keel's book, The Trojan Horse, he explains that like these beings, whatever they are, will show themselves to people as things that the people would understand based on like different times in human history and the people's level of understanding of what's possible, basically. So back in the 1800s and the early 1900s, people were seeing like flying saucers, like actual like aircraft, like nuts and bolts saucers. But nowadays, what people are seeing more is like light orbs and energy, because our understanding of what is possible is different. We're a little bit further along. We can comprehend some of these things in ways that we couldn't before. And with the aerial school thing where they saw the ships landing, they were showing themselves to children. So they would have to show themselves in a way that they would understand. You know, they came down in a spaceship. These beings, you know, were visible to them. They could see them. It wasn't like these light orbs came down, because the children would see a light orb and be like, I don't understand what's going on. So these things can literally appear in physical reality as anything. They don't operate in the box that we are in of 3D reality, which I'm pretty sure is just a manifestation of, you know, the collective unconscious, or whatever you want to call it. And these things know that, and they're able to interface with consciousness and do the impossible and travel in ways that aren't really traveling. Like, they're not going from point A to point B. They're just there when they want to be. It's like, what are we doing trying to build rockets going to Mars when, you know, maybe that's just a show. Maybe that is just a show for the people to see. Like, we're trying to go out into space, we're doing it with rockets, but maybe behind the scenes there's programs where they're developing stuff that is like able to interface with consciousness. Because I'm pretty sure that's what's going on. Consciousness is everything, ultimately. And there's a wide spectrum of beings that are out there. And it's not black and white. It's not they're good or bad. There's probably a wide array of beings out there, and I'm sure a bunch of different kinds of beings are here. So I don't know, it just, there's nothing new coming out in these hearings. People are ready to like know the actual truth. I think they are. I think people can handle it now. People watch these hearings and they're like, oh God, like look at the comments on a lot of these videos about the hearings. People are like, there's nothing new here. Like, we're ready. We're ready. People are fed up. People are fed up. And I think at this point people can handle it. And these beings, whatever they are, know that too, which is why they're showing themselves more and more and more to everyday people, not to people in the government. So, I don't know. I filmed a lot of interesting craft myself. I've had a lot of experiences, like a lot. Like, at a point in my life, it was happening like every day, every night. I was seeing stuff and filming stuff. And if you're new to the channel, watch my documentary, The Beings from Beyond. Scroll back a little ways and you'll find The Beings from Beyond. And I showcase a lot of the weird stuff that I filmed. And all of that stuff that I filmed, I attribute it to me working on like raising my consciousness and doing like meditation and, you know, starting to live a more spiritual life, basically. Because it all started happening after I was doing that. And plus I was also dabbling quite heavily in psychedelics. So I attribute that to a lot of it as well. It really like sped the process up. I don't recommend everyone doing that because, you know, for obvious reasons, but it's one of those things that really opens you up to the possibilities, you know, and to what reality actually is. So, but they're not going to tell you that. There's the stuff that they're telling people in these hearings is so far behind what regular people are experiencing. It's hilarious. Like, if you want to know the truth, go on YouTube and look up people's actual like experiences, because people are having experiences that go far beyond what these people are talking about in these hearings. But just be suspicious of everything that they say, because these hearings are orchestrated. Like, everything that they say, they're like reading off papers that are written like systematically. They want you to believe certain things. The wording is like, you know, it's all planned. It's all planned and orchestrated. And they use the same people in a lot of these hearings, like Luis Elizondo. Like, I don't trust any of these people. You know, go to people who are just regular people, who have values, who are experiencing these things, because they know what's going on. Like, these people are doing like real disclosure, while like the government's trying to make it seem like, you know, there's this crazy threat to our airspace. We need to beef up the military and It's like, why do we want to be more hostile? We don't want to bring that attitude into space if that's where we're going, which I think is silly. I think it's silly to be using rockets to go out to like Mars and stuff. I think it's dumb. So those are just my thoughts, though. I rambled quite a bit, but check out the hearing if you haven't watched it, and let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Mountain Beast Mysteries.